Oh, hi. Just watching a tape I made of a rather good Super Nintendo game I played over the weekend. My friend Richard and I rented a Super Nintendo over the weekend and about, I don't know, between 8 and 10 different games. Like, we rented it for 2 nights, about 4 or 5 games each night. Yeah, I rented some good ones. I only taped one of them, though. I'm sure you're more than familiar with the arcade game of R-Type. Well, we rented Super R-Type. I don't know, you may have played it. I'm sure you've seen it, anyway, or heard about it. I must say, it's actually the probably the best outer space shoot-'em-up I've played since Life Force. Got the chance to play Gradius 3 recently, by the way, which, as I mentioned a few video letters ago, Gradius 3 is, of course, the sequel to Life Force, and Life Force was the sequel to the first Gradius. Yeah, I didn't get to play it very much, though, because that was another night we rented like 5 games. I wanted to play it more, but the other people present wanted to play other games. In particular, Rampart we had there. That's a really fun game. I really enjoyed that. So I always thought Super R-Type was just an adaptation of the first R-Type. Basically, a Super Nintendo-ized version of the first game. You know, because I know there's a regular Nintendo version of the first game, and I assumed this was just sort of an upgrade to the Super Nintendo. You know, like the same game, only better graphics and sound and so forth. But it's not. See, I never played the first R-Type very much in the arcade, but I have played the second one a few times, and I was wondering, like, when I was playing it, I was thinking, well, that's odd. I recognize some of these scenes from the second R-Type, you know, and I couldn't figure out why they would be in an adaptation of the first one. So in flipping through the manual, I found out that Super R-Type is in actuality an adaptation, sort of a combination of both games. It doesn't have the complete, like, each game in its entirety. It just has, I guess, highlights from each game. You know, like the best looking bosses or the best looking enemies and levels or whatever, I don't know. But it's sort of basically a combination of the two. And altogether, a very fun game. Anyway, to start things off with a bit of action, I thought you might like to have a look at it. I taped the whole game. It's 7 levels. Only one thing. I never could make it past level 3. I would make it to the end of level 3, but I couldn't defeat the boss. So you'll just see as far as I got, basically, and then it'll go on to level 4. Yeah, the whole game runs about, like, the way I've edited it, runs about half an hour. Here, I'll show you about half of it. I'll show you probably the first 4 levels right now, and then probably just show you the rest later. Or in the next video. No, I'll probably show it to you later. You may recall in Life Force I had a bit of a cheat, namely a code which gave me 30 lives. I found out there's a similar code for Gradius 3. If you're still playing that, I'll give you the code if you like. Maybe I'll include it on an accompanying letter or a list of something, of codes or whatever. Well, anyway, I had a code for R-Type. Nothing that enables one to cheat so easily as having 30 lives, but one that came in handy nevertheless. The code was basically for a level select, so that's how I was able to proceed to level 4 without completing level 3. And with R-Type, or Super R-Type, you have to complete every level on one man, basically. You've got more than one man in reserve, of course, but you have to complete each level in one fell swoop, you know? Like, you can't continue at various points along it like you could with Life Force. Yeah, unlimited continues, though, so that was nice. Anyway, here's the first 4 levels of Super R-Type. Enjoy.
Greetings, everyone. Sean from the future here, coming at you from the night of, Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019, the morning of Thursday, April 4th, 2019. And we're going to play some Super R-Type. Or rather, I played Super R-Type back in November of 1992. So let's check it out. Excellent. Now, as I think I say in one of the archival commentaries about this, I was a little confused as to what this was at first, because I had played, I think, some of R-Type 2 in the arcades, but I hadn't really played the first one before. And I thought that this was just a straight-up upgrade of R-Type 1, just with, you know, better graphics and sound to take advantage of the power of the Super NES. But No, apparently that's not what it is. It's actually kind of a mishmash of levels and enemies and stuff from both of the first two R-Types. Now, there was later an R-Type 3 released on the Super NES, but they never really released straight-up versions of R-Type 1 and 2. They just kind of did this sort of Frankenstein version. But that's okay. I mean, I'm sure you'll agree. It looks great. It sounds great. It's just, and it plays great. I mean, it's R-Type, man. It's R-Type. Now, many, many moons later, I actually did get the original R-Types. The, as a matter of fact, I think the collection was called R-Types, which was on the PS1. And it had arcade-perfect conversions of the original two R-Type games. So I did finally, eventually, play the originals. But, and man, I gotta say, they were a lot harder than this. Now, you'll notice, of course, as it reminds you constantly on the screen what skill level you're playing at. I'm playing on Novice level. And the main reason for that was because I just wanted to make sure I'd be able to show the entire game for the video letter. So, yeah. So, like, for example, this boss here, as I recall, in the later skill levels, he moves a lot faster. Like, here he's moving pretty pokily. But in the later skill levels, he moves faster and leaves these mines all over the frickin' screen. And, you know, I mean, R-Type has sort of reputation as being one of the first ever bullet hell games. Certainly the first one to really kind of take off. Well, I guess not really the first bullet hell, but the first one that had, like, an extensive power-up system and whatnot. And the whole, you know, launchable pod thing, I think is just brilliant. And I love the fact that you know, you can just kind of fire it off ahead of you to take care of enemies or send it into a dangerous area to clear out a bunch of enemies before your main ship gets anywhere near it. And that was pretty cool how it does that. Oh, look at that. So that was the other reason, actually, for doing this on Novice level, was so that I could get all the power-ups and kind of show them off, so you could see what all the different weapons were and stuff like that. So, yeah, see, like here, I just launched it in there to take care of those guys before I even get there, which is really handy. And I love the fact that you can attach it to the front or the rear of your ship, so you can actually have it firing behind you, taking care of enemies as they're trying to sneak up on you. So, by this point, I had played this quite a bit, and was pretty good at it, generally speaking. I mean, I think I was quite capable of playing this on higher skill levels, but for the purposes of the recordings, I just wanted to make sure that I got as much of it as possible on tape. Oh, that was close. Yeah, and you get all the different missiles. I think this one is homing missiles. I can't remember. Oh, look at that. That's a pretty cool weapon. Yeah, gotta love all the different power-ups in this. But, yeah, when I did finally get around to playing the originals on that PS1 collection, boy, did it ever kick my ass. Like, it is such a hard game. But, definitely one I'd like to go back to periodically, because it's just one of the all-time great shoot-'em-ups. I mean, it's easy to see why these games have such a huge fan base. Madness, just waves and waves and waves of enemies coming at you. Is this the boss? No, we're not quite at the boss yet. I always also found it quite interesting how so much of the visuals of this game are so clearly inspired by H.R. Giger. Like, the whole biomechanical thing. Like, I mean, all the enemies basically look like biomechanical creatures you'd expect to see in an H.R. Giger painting. But, yeah, the interesting thing is all the power-ups have their advantages and disadvantages as well. Like this one, for example, I mean, yeah, it rebounds. In an enclosed space like that, it's really good, because it just kind of sends this, you know, zigzag of death of lasers. But in a wide open area, like, say, like this, it's not quite as effective because, well, I guess, I don't know, we'll see. So first, I consider this the first real boss, because the other one was just kind of this little guy. But this is like a good and proper R-type boss here. Yeah, so of course you got the sort of eyeball thing that opens up, and it's only vulnerable while it's open, and while it's open, it's also shooting at you. And just to make things a little more dickish, they take away the space you had, and these energy balls on the left there slowly close in and pull you closer and closer to the boss. Like, it's just so cruel. But yeah, and of course on the higher skill levels, these bosses take a lot more hits too. So yeah, like there's no way I would do that in one go. As I recall, this game did bless you with unlimited continues, which is quite nice. You do have limited lives, but you have unlimited continues. As with most shoot 'em ups from this era, no energy bar or anything like that. It's basically one shot and you're dead. But you do get multiple. Oh, I like this. Yeah, I like this weapon here, where it just kind of snakes along the edges. Really useful for taking out turrets and stuff like that. It's great. Oh man, I love the music in this game. It's got a great soundtrack. Yeah, if you find the soundtrack online somewhere, do yourself a treat and grab it, because it's a really good one. And as is often the case with a lot of Super NES soundtracks, I mean, the songs themselves are quite long and have a lot of different sections to them, and tend to go in a lot of different directions. Like, I mean, a lot of shoot 'em ups would just kind of have straight up ripping techno music or something like that, but this one mixes things up quite a bit. I mean, they got a little bit of techno in there, but they also get oh, I see. Is avoiding the water jets there. So like, if you just kind of listen to how this this piece evolves. Oh yeah, I think I wanted it behind me, but oh, I see. No, the water doesn't actually kill you; it just pushes you. So of course you want to avoid the walls. So yeah, see, like here it gets into some jazz piano and stuff, and it's just awesome. I love it. But longtime viewers of Retro will, of course, remember, I think it was the first video game playthrough I ever did for these videos anyway, was Life Force on the NES, which was, of course, the home version of Salamander, which itself was kind of, it's part of the Gradius series, but kind of like a side game, I guess you call it. Like, if you ever play any of the Gradius games, you notice that the power-up system is exactly the same as Life Force. It's like, well, that's because they're all part of the same series, actually. I don't know if Life Force is considered to be Gradius 2 or what, but, yeah, I played a few of the other Gradius games over the years as well. So it's like Gradius and R-Type, to me, have always been the pinnacle of outer space shooters. Because they really both did some interesting things with the power-up systems that you don't see a lot in other shooters. Other shooters, I mean, they'll have power-ups, but it's basically just grab this power-up to have this gun, grab that power-up to have that gun. Whereas this one, you know, with R-Type, for example, it gives you a lot of options to sort of customize. I mean, you can just avoid the power-ups, just keep what you've got, you know. Okay, so where are we? Oh, this is stage 3. This is the boss I was never able to defeat, actually, even on novice level. If you just watch, like, what an asshole this boss is. I mean, first off, I'm not even 100% sure what the objective was. I think you gotta take out the... I assume you gotta take out the snakes, and I'm dead. Anyway, I guess we'll never find out, because I then used a level select code to go straight to level 4. Now this stage here, the sort of big battleship thing, this is out of R-Type 1. This one I remember from playing the PS1 version. I can't remember if I actually managed to get past this in R-Type 1. Like, as I recall, like, I recognized it from this when I went back and played it in R-Type 1. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this from Super R-Type, but But, like, in Super R-Type, I was able to finish it. I was able to get past it. But in R-Type, like the original, where this actually comes from, I was not able to beat it. Like, it was just too impossible. I think part of the reason is, and I think I talk about this in the comments later, is on Novice level, it lets you keep all your power-ups. After you, like, if you die or continue or what have you, you can keep all the power-ups that you died with. Whereas on any normal difficulty, you lose them. You have to get your power-ups over again. So, of course, when I was playing the original R-Type, I was just playing it on normal. And, you know, I would die and have to reacquire whatever power-ups I could. And, I mean, as you can see, even with some decent power-ups, this ship takes a hell of a lot of punishment. So it was not easy to do it with, you know, just kind of minimal weapons. Now, is this what I'm trying to grab, or am I avoiding it? No, I'm just taking my time, I think. Yeah, because that sort of snaking fire one is quite useful to take out the turrets on this. Yeah, so we can get those lasers down into the confined area on the bottom. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty good. You get the sort of zigzag and see which way it rebounds and stuff like that. But yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah, the thing that was always cool about R-Type is it gives you a lot of options to customize. I mean, I think you can even upgrade the thing on the front there to some extent. But, and you get your little missile launchers and stuff, and, so, I mean, you have different types of missiles you can use, you get different types of main guns you can use, and, it allows you to kind of mix and match how you want. So if you got a gun that you like and you want to keep, you can just avoid the next power-up. Sometimes that's a further challenge, because sometimes it's right in your path, and it's a little hard to get to. Okay. Yeah, you gotta love how all the bosses are in these, like, incredibly confined places. R-Type, not for people with claustrophobia. Now, I don't know why I'm just kind of focusing on the center there. Like, why am I not sort of going down and taking out those turrets? Or maybe I figure I'll just take them out through osmosis because of how much my shots are bouncing around. Like, yeah, just take out the darn turrets. Oh, boy. Yeah, that gets a little tricky. I guess because you don't technically have to take out the turrets. It's more about just taking out the center thing. I don't think you can shoot those. No, you can't shoot them. Must be pretty close by now. I don't know why I keep shooting. Oh, maybe I'm just hoping to get the, am I gonna get the last one? Get the last one. There we go. We got him. And that is that. Alright, I'll see you on the next part. In which we, we'll take a look at the conclusion, stages 5 through 7. So that'll be in, I guess, a few weeks. So I'll talk to you again then.
Hi. Well, there you have it. Levels 1 through 4 of Super R-Type for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. In my humble opinion, an absolutely superb game machine. Yeah, I wanted to say a couple things about Super R-Type. You may have noticed when it switched to the next level, often I'd have completely different weapons than I had at the end of the previous level. Well, that's quite simply because most of the levels it took several tries to do. The only level that I managed to do on the first try was level 6. Actually, I did level 5 on the first try as well, but I wasn't taping it, so I had to retape it, and of course I couldn't do it again. Well, I did manage to do it again eventually, but it took a while. Yeah, so when you see level 6, bear in mind that's the first time I've ever played that level. Luck was on my side, that's for sure. Level 7 took forever to do. There's 7 levels total. Yeah, level 7 was pretty tough. Another thing I was going to say was about the weapons. That was, of course, the Novice skill level. There's Novice, Easy, Normal, and Hard for the skill levels. I think that's it for them. Yeah, I did it at the novice level basically to ensure that I'd be able to finish it by the time we had to return it, and so that I could get the whole thing on tape. I started off just playing at the easy level, but even that was too hard. It's a very tough game, as I'm sure you know if you've ever played it. But anyway, something about the novice level, every time you die, it allows you to keep your weapons, like the weapons you died with basically, and add to them however you want, whatever becomes available to you. So that's why you'll notice through most of it I have some pretty kick-ass weapons, So that's it for that. For the moment, I'll show you the final 3 levels later on. Oh, by the way, still November 30th, as you can probably tell from the camera angle, and there's the time, 1:48 p.m. and 48 something seconds. So, goodbye.